So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, thou shalt hear the word of my mouth, and warn them from me. Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Middle Tennessee and examining current events from a biblical perspective, this is Bible News Radio with your hosts, Randall and Stacy Harp.
Switch the topic. Well, no, not completely. I have to vent about this one, and then we'll do a good news story. Okay, so you remember 2 weeks ago we played that audio, or we were talking about Brittany Maynard. I think it was a Free-for-All Friday show. We were talking about how this 29-year-old has brain cancer and how she decided she's going to kill herself. And she moved to Oregon so that she could kill herself legally, right? And she made a video, and millions of people watched it, and she got, the sympathy of the world. And everybody's like, yeah, you go ahead and kill yourself. Yay! You have the right to die however you want, Yeah. So she decides to kill herself on November 1st, and then all these reports came out on November 1st, or I think it was the day before, Halloween. And she was having doubts. Oh, I don't know if I should kill myself now because, I'm having some second thoughts about it. Well, it turns out she did. She decided to kill herself on the 2nd instead. So a couple of days after her husband's birthday, she offs herself with his approval and her mother's approval and her friend's approval because she didn't want to live out her natural life and die of brain cancer, a horrible, rotten death, as the doctors put to her. On the one hand, I suppose, I can kind of understand that. But then, I start thinking about it. And I just have to say, 12 years ago tomorrow, I, with Randall, was sitting in a hospital room almost the whole day. Got there, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. And I sat on the side of my mother who was dying 12 years ago tomorrow. And I remember sitting there for practically the whole day because she died around 4:20 in the afternoon. And it was a long day for me. It was a stressful day for me because here I am waiting for my mother to die. My mom didn't ask for the plug to be pulled. And when she was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4, and she lived about a year and a half with it. And so I was thinking about my mom this morning. I was thinking about this Brittany chick who's 29 years old. And I was thinking, I watched my mother go from bloated and then lose a ton of weight to where she was withering down. She looked like a skeleton. I remember one thing in particular, she was laying there, literally in her hospital bed with crap coming out of her butt, and she couldn't wipe herself because she was that weak. And then I watched her bounce back, get out of the hospital after a couple months. I watched her get into shock, go into emergency rooms, have diabetic shock, be glazed over, out of it completely. And then I watched her go home and live a little bit longer, celebrate some holidays. Then I watched her go back to the hospital, and I remember one of the last times I saw her in the hospital, and Randall can testify to this, she was in the emergency room, and she was making fun of the doctor, right? And because he was wearing a toupee. And me and Randall were like, nah, it can't be that bad. And my mom's like, no, it's really bad. This doctor's really got a bad toupee. And a few minutes later, the doctor comes walking up, and sure enough, I couldn't not laugh because this doctor had a really bad toupee. It was bad. I mean, it was
like he found it in a dumpster or something. It didn't match his other hair color, or texture, or it was bad. It was bad.
It was bad. And I remember my mom sitting there, and, at this point, she probably knew she had 2 months left. She didn't have much. But I remember her sitting there, and she had all these bruises all over her, because when you have cancer and you're doing chemo and all this other stuff, they put zillions of needles in you, and eventually your your veins dye and you get black and blue. And, you know, my mom her whole arms were all black and blue. They looked horrible. And I remember looking and going, wow, you know, that's quite amazing. And my mom looked up at me and she said, you should have saw the other guy, you know? And,
yep.
And, you know, and I'm thinking, okay, I saw cancer kill my mother. So I get cancer. I get it. It sucks. You know, I hope I don't have to die of it. But likelihood is a good portion of our population is going to die of it. It's sad that Brittany got cancer at such a young age. I watched another friend many years ago who was about her age die of breast cancer. So this is an ugly thing. I get it. I'm not unempathetic to cancer and the death process at all. But it bugs me to no end when people think they know better than God. You know, I think about my mom. She didn't know the Lord until almost a year before she died. And it was the cancer that got her attention. This Brittany person, apparently, if you read all of the stuff that she's written, there's no indication whatsoever she knew Christ. None whatsoever. And it's sad to me. It's totally sad. Because you know what? God could have done a miracle in this woman's life. You know, God could have healed her divinely. You know, you got people like Johnny Erickson Tata, who had a diving accident, becomes a quadriplegic, reaching out to her saying, you know what? Don't do it. Look at me. I'm a quadriplegic. I don't have use of my arms or my legs or anything. And I've lived a, you know, fulfilling life for 65 years.
Not only personally fulfilling, but ministering to other people and encouraging others, and you know, and so leaving a legacy.
I feel sad. I kind of feel mad at this woman, you know, because if she didn't know the Lord, she's probably in hell right now, and she's probably wondering, wow, why did I do that? That was a dumb thing. Oops, can't take it back. And that's the thing about suicide. You can't take it back. You can't take back suicide, you know? And I don't know. I just don't understand the husband. I don't understand her mother. I don't understand people like that. But we live in a culture of death, you know? We totally do. And if you stand up for life, like if you say, hey, don't do birth control because it's still abortifacient, even though it's under a nice name of birth control, you're still considered a hater because how dare you, you know, impinge upon my right to kill something. You know what? God told us to choose life. He didn't tell us to choose death. That's why Jesus died. He's conquered death. I have that hope, and I hope you do too. Anyway, so on that note, let me go ahead.